Hello, my name's Jay. Probably if you're listening to this video, you might even know that. Alright, I'm going to explain how I made the Webelos arrows. This is something I've been obsessing about since my kids went over on their Webelos year. For the last year, I've been trying to figure out how am I going to make these arrows. Now, historically, the way this was done is there was a very capable, I wouldn't call him carpenter. In fact, he's a fireman, but he's also a gifted carpenter, as it turns out. He came up with a scheme for doing something. However, I didn't know what the scheme was. I had just a slight idea. So I came up with several approaches, all which failed. I can go in detail. They all failed. All right. Wood lathes, trying to do it manually, all kinds of expense went into it. Finally, I cornered the individual. We talked about it, and he explained how he did it. And he also explained that he'd been doing it for 8 years, and I kind of got the impression that he really didn't want to do it anymore. So I was determined, more than ever, to try to figure out and recreate his process. So, if you want to do the same, this is how it works. All right. So, trusty scout Nathan here has got the camera, and he's going to drill in. So, the first part is, instead of having a wood lathe that's turning the thing and then you putting something on it and removing the excess wood, what you're doing instead, and let me step back, I'm going to explain that this is the final goal, is to create these ridges that separate each advancement rank. So this is the first rank here, and that is going to be the Bobcat badge. Then we're going to skip over here, that's going to be their tiger. In a second, I'm going to add the wolf, and then eventually we'll add bear, and we'll add Webelos. We add additional notches in for each achievement they made over the initial requirement. So, in the case of wolf and bear, there are 7 requirements, all right? I believe 6 standard requirements plus an elective to get their badge. So all 7 of those are incorporated into a big badge, and then each individual one is going to be a separate knock or notch, all right? And then I'll paint those. There'll be pictures of final versions if you want. Nathan can scan up here. This was done for my eldest son, Brandon, and you can see that it starts here with the yellow for Bobcat, and then there's Tiger, and then there's Wolf. Now, Brandon was in the program when they had other awards. He was in the old school, so they had gold and silver. Those are no longer applicable. You won't be doing those. So I'm not sure whether I'll just create gold notches for everything. That's probably what I'll do. And then for the Webelos, then they have additional requirements that they do for their Webelos year. And I'm just going to do similar to what we're doing this year for each advancement they did above and beyond the initial requirement. I'll add additional notches for those. And I'm going to combine the Arrow of Light and the Webelos with that. This is technically I believe, the award he got. Well, so this is Arrow of Light. This one, I think, based on my scheme, should be for his religious award and should be purple. He never earned it, so that's appropriate that he didn't get it. So I'm not sure what that one's actually supposed to represent. My den won't be receiving whatever that award is. The schematic I had for this doesn't show it. All right, Nathan. Oh, before we go, there's also these pieces here that show. I ordered these online. I got it through eBay, I believe. And these pieces here can be picked up at Michael's or any other thing. I went ahead and did those. I think they're going to look a little better with a little bit of clear shield or coating on it for wood to make kind of bring out some of this. So, anyways, that's the only difference. And then I'll find feathers. That's going to be the least of my concerns. One of the hardest parts that I still haven't figured out technically is how to make the notch for the arrowhead. All right, so hopefully I'll have a solution for that. I'll probably go revisit individual one again and find out exactly how he did it. For sure, he probably used about the same process that we used for the notches, but you have to adjust the machine. So, Nathan, step back and let me point out the contraption that I came up with. All right, so here's the key. This is a router. It's owned by the pack, so this should be available by someone. I plan to hand it off to the Webelos den leader. I believe his name is Nathan Freiheit next year, and hopefully he can use it. If he refuses to take it, I'll pass it on to the next person that plans to use it. You can see this is actually held onto a board. All right, I created the board, all right, based off of individual one's description, he managed to hold this steady. There you go. Pull back. All right. So, are you getting my pointing? All right. You can see I just have these metal bands, and they go through holes at the bottom of the board, and they hold this completely steady. I actually glued a board on at the back of it to hold it up, but it's insufficient. So there's actually, if you look, there's another board that's like a doorstop jamb that's pushing it up even further. Do that. Okay. Here and here are guardrails. And the way that works is if you see the future arrow going into the contraption, when I push this up against the machine while it's on, all right, I can then push it up against the guards and they don't go any further. And then all I have to do to get my notch, because the call it a blade, I'm sure there's a drill bit piece or some other name that's more appropriate, the drill bit piece is actually sticking out a fraction of an inch, maybe 2 millimeters would be my guess. 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters. Certainly not 4. It's sticking out over the edge. And when I push this against here and then roll this around, it makes the notch when it's turned on. Now, this is important. The guardrails have to be held and they have to be adjustable. The reason for that is because as you want to move up the arrows, this piece doesn't move at all. When I want to move this forward, I look over here. Make sure you get a good picture of this. All right, you can see the C-clamp is holding it back. That is set up, and you can see I've got, if you look at the pencil marks on the board, which I plan to pass the board along, there are markings for each rank advancement. Here, I'm not sure if you can read it, but here's our yellow, all right, for the Bobcat, all right. Right after that, being covered up by the clamp, is the Tiger. All right, and here I'm about ready to start the wolf. So pull back because it's, there we go. All right, so here's the wolf, there's the tiger. What I do when I want to make, oh shucks, hang on.
We have a time light in our house. Very not that helpful.
And that was done because certain people forgot to turn it off and it stayed on many, many nights.
Brandon.
So the C-clamp can be adjusted. I just loosen this up and move it where I want it. So right now, I just moved it back to wolf, I moved it back to tiger, and you can see that. And then when I have the adjustments, I can move up. Here's their 8th award and 9th award. I just keep moving up and I can make the notches as needed. Okay, so I'm going to put it back on wolf because that's where I'm going to need it. The reason for the clamp is that when I move the arrow back, it holds that still. That is a really important piece. I can't be turning this thing. Here, turn back, get the whole picture. Yeah, I can't be turning this and have it being able to move. If I do that, your lines are going to go up and down as opposed to being very straight. Okay? I think I'm overselling this. I think at this point it's pretty obvious, and with the other additional pictures that I hope to provide, hopefully those will get put into a Pack 119 folder of some kind, and people can take a look at this and see what they want to do. This was the solution that was put together and has been used for at least 8 years. Not every case. I know there are certain den leaders that break away from that. Something else I think you should understand, you're under no obligation to do it this way. You can just order arrows and get stickers and have the boys work on them in your last couple of den meetings and hand those out. I mean, they may not look great or as good as these, but then again, your time effort is way low. And so, given that many of the siblings of my den had arrows that look just like this, I feel obligated to create. Here, show them the Brandon's arrow again.
I did that 3.
Yeah, so because they have those, I feel obligated to follow through. If you don't have any history with creating them like this, you'll save yourself a great deal of strain. I don't know, I could use a lot of adjectives to describe this entire process, but yeah, it required a lot of effort to figure out how to get it this far. So I thought I would share that with you all. All right, thank you, and we will be ending now.
3, 2, 1. Hasta la pasta. Ha ha blah blah.